Hello and welcome back to another tutorial video. This one's going to be going over the utilization of the terminal and everything that entails. So I'm going to go over some kind of high level things, really the basics of some of the commands, not all of them. That's going to be up to you to look at in your own time. But this is to generally just give you a baseline that is very needed for our next tutorial, which is the hacking jobs. So I do want to say too, sorry this is going to be a really long video and I'm not going to be able to cut out anything. My recording software broke because of an AMD driver, so bear with me. So I want to quickly go over the tutorial. So I told you I'd go over that in this tutorial, and I will. Alright, this is your tutorial window. Really cool, right? These first three are just informational text, right? If you just want to look over this really quickly to get an idea. Networking is probably the longest one, but this will give you an idea of every piece of knowledge that is important for you to play this game properly. Now you don't have to go over this, you can just kind of teach yourself. It doesn't really matter, right? But the two important modules are the tools overview and the exploitation overview. So the tools overview right here walks you through how to do a basic SSH command, use ls, how ls works, looking for files, stuff like that, right? It even gives you commands you'll need to know, which I just mentioned, the format right here, which I'll need to fix this. But essentially, this will walk you through and gives you your own environment to practice too, right? So if I go over here to generate machine, this will generate its own network for you to go into. So you're essentially looking for a flag, and you're going to take this command, open up a terminal, paste it, and then boom, you're connected to your test network. So I'm not going to do this here. I'm just going to kind of show you it because I'd rather you do this on your own. So I'm going to just show you that, and I recommend that you do this at some point soon. All right, so now that we're here, and this is our screen, right? Let's go over the terminal real quick. So some of the basic things I want to show you is like things like ping, ls, echo, those things, right? So ping is used to make sure an IP address for like a router or a computer is actually up, right? For example, if you want to check if our router is up, which always has the IP address of 192.168.1.1, you just run ping, and then bada bing bada boom, you see it's up. Now if I try to ping something that isn't actually up, right? So like the .3, this is a player network, so there is no .3. You'll see, oh wait, no, it's probably my phone, my bad. .4, sorry, yeah, there we go. So machine does not exist. Yeah, by the way, we have phones too. That'll be its own video. Easy enough command, just shows you what's alive, what's not. Very useful if you want to debug, like, can I actually reach this one network? Well, use ping and see if you can. So that's ping. Let's go over cat. So cat is how you're going to read a file, right? So Etsy hosts, for example, you see bing.com, localhost, all that stuff like that. It's just going to return to you whatever's in that file. If I were to like cat Etsy password, you'll see this is my password file with root and John, all that stuff. Just reading a file, nothing too crazy. Echo is just going to echo stuff into the output. So for instance, if I want to echo yes, you see yes returns. If I want to echo a bunch of goobly gop, you see the goobly gop gets echoed to the terminal. Now this is where something called redirection is going to come into play, right? So if I want to echo more goobly gop into a file, because I want to save for later, right? I can do that. For example, temp yes, and then I cat temp yes. You see my goobly gop made it. Pretty cool, right? Now, this redirection is really helpful and really useful. For instance, if you want to record like a PS output, right? Like PS is how you reveal the processes running in your process list on this machine. You could just do PS, redirect that into temp yes. And now you see temp yes now consists of the PS output that we have seen previously. This is very useful for things like Sked. Sked is like cron in the real world. It'll run in the background every minute and check to see the file. So if you have like a Sked job that's something like this, PS to temp yes, it'll run this command and then write that to temp yes, which is why this is very important, right? For like logging and monitoring, stuff like that. So that's for overriding, right? But what if we want to append? So all we gotta do is with this above command, put 2 of these greater than signs into it. And now we see, if you look at temp yes, that there are 2 now. And you can do that for whatever you want, right? I can echo, dude, something cool into temp yes, then cat temp yes, and you'll see do something cool made it really cool. Let me also go over piping. So the terminal pipe, very experimental. I kind of just implemented this one day because I felt like it. So it essentially will take anything from your previous command, the output of the previous command, and pipe it into the input of the next command. So for instance, if I were to, remember how we did the yes before? If we echo something of value, right, like var log messages, you see var log messages. If I echo var log messages into cat, I should put it there, okay, yeah. You see it actually casts var log messages. So that's really useful if you want to use it for something. That's just kind of a Unix thing I decided to implement one day. Not really important, I guess, just something you can do. It's the same as running this command, as you can see. I just want to kind of show you what that looks like. And yeah, that's really about it for that. So that's the terminal. If you want to see all the list of commands you have to run here, you just run help. And this is kind of up to date. Like I said, I kind of need to add on to this, but I'll get around to that. Don't worry about it. So next thing I want to kind of talk to you about is term set. Now term set is how you interact with the terminal itself, like the environment variables, the color, the title, all that stuff, right? If you want to kind of personalize your experience. Now if you notice, there's colors here, right? In previous versions, this is all just one really long text box, and that was very limiting. So that's something that was changed in the new version of the game. It just gives you colors specific to whatever's happening. For instance, blue is the machine commands you ran, green is the default output of the machine commands you ran, or anything else. You also have things like Remus. If I were to install Remus real quick, and the tool has its own output. If I do local ls, you see it has orange, right? And this is kind of like the output from Remus itself. We'll go over that a little bit later with Remus. You kind of see what it is. I'm not gonna sit here and like harp on it. You'll see. So anyway, the main point is term set has a bunch of cool things you can do with it. For instance, like term set title. I'm gonna change this Windows title to dude. You see I changed this Windows title to dude. You can do something actually useful, like change it to SSH, right? If you want to like make sure you're in this window. Term sets, I don't know, title, local, anything really, dude. Whatever you want it to be. You can make it something crazy. As long as it's just one word, it's all connected. It'll show up as a title. So term set also has stuff like color. And you'll be able to, well, I made a command to reference it. That's my bad. I actually need to go back and redo that. But yeah, essentially you can change the color for everything in the terminal. So you can change this, like all of this output to whatever color you want to. It's going to take in like a certain combination. Like I said, I'll go over that a little bit later. But what's really important is, and as you see here, these are your environment variables, right? Like you got your current path. So if you were to try to run anything with this current path and it's not in your current working directory, it'll look in bin exploited, root for that file that you're trying to run, and try to run it for you there. In your history, you'll get output to root history. So whenever you exit this session, you'll see all the commands I just ran will be there. So what that looks like is if I exit, I go to root, you see history is right here, and then these are all of the commands that I have previously ran. Pretty cool, right? So that's really cool. But now let's talk about authentication to the machine, because our next command is going to be SSH. So let's get a basic understanding of how this works. Essentially, whenever you try to authenticate with anything to this machine, any machine, whatever, it's going to look at two files, etc password, etc shadow. First, etc password is going to contain your users, like we saw earlier. Next, etc shadow is going to contain the password hashes. Whenever you authenticate, right, if I were to authenticate with like root password, right, it's going to hash password and check it against this hash. If they match, it's going to authenticate you. If they don't, it's not going to happen. You're going to get an error. So what it actually looks like, right, is if I were to SSH root at my local IP address, and if you want to check for what your local IP address is, it's ifconfig. You see my internal IP is 192.168.1.2. Really cool hack that makes it kind of easy for the real world is your Etsy host already has localhost linked to the .2. So all I gotta do is just do like ping localhost. Anything in localhost will resolve to the .2. So easy enough. Now, The reason why I'm saying this is because we're going to try on ourselves to authenticate with root. So my password shouldn't be password. If I run just password, oh, I guess it is. Oh, that's right. Yeah, sorry. All those machines do ship with password. So I recommend changing that as soon as possible. It's gone on you guys. So as you see, I'm authenticated, and you should see if it is a good connection that, yep, you see 22 is connected and everything like that. All right, pretty cool. And if I just exit that session, you see we're being chilling. Now we try that again with something random. See that it says connect user and password. If you use 3 times, too many password attempts will kick you back. And so we're gonna try running that again. This time, if you want to exit out of this, all you gotta do is just type exit, like the word exit, and then closes the session. Now if you want to be crazy, you would name your actual like root password as exit. Hey man, more power to you. But anyway, that's how that SSH command works. To show you what that looks like with the user, every box comes installed with John, who we saw earlier. He has his own home directory, but you know, it's just kind of there for show. I think it's change password. So if I want to change the password of John to 1234, see it got changed. SSH John at localhost. You see if I put in 1234, I get authentication success. However, if I try it again with whatever, that didn't work. So just kind of reinforcing the idea of how the passwords are checked and what SSH is kind of doing behind the scenes whenever you try to log into a machine. So that's pretty easy enough to get a hold of. Now, whenever you're using SSH, you have options available to you. If you want to see those, SSH like H will show you. So we're going to get to this part a little bit later, but it has some really hopeful like easy features, right? So if you want to like specify a port number, you can. You can specify a password, you can. You can do this all inline as options, so you don't have to input a password later. So you remember how we changed John's password to 1234? If you want to SSH to this computer and you want to use that password, you just tack on capital P, and then bada bing bada boom, it logs you in automatically. Really cool, right? Now also, if the default port is changed for SSH, right? So I know this one's 22 because by default it all is on 22, but if it's not on 22, it basically looks like this by default. If it's not on 22, you can change it here. You see like an error because it says port's not open. But if I change this to 22, this is the port we're connected to with SSH. You see, once again, we get authenticated, right? So that's how you change the port you're going to. Really important for these next jobs you're about to do, and specify the password inline so you don't have to put it in every time. Now, if you try to authenticate with an incorrect password, it's going to ask you for the password, right? And then you're going to be like, wait, what do you mean? That's wrong. And you try it again. Oh, it's wrong. What? And you put the right one, you're good, right? Very simple SSH, not that complicated. And like I said, we'll go over redirection later. So I want to go over some of the base kind of like machine files that are really important. So we saw Etsy hosts later. That's essentially, whenever you do DNS resolution, you have a file that is checked first for local resolution, what it looks like. So if I got Etsy hosts, right, you see Bing.com is resolving to the .2. That was there so long ago when I made DNS resolution in this game. You see, as you said earlier, localhost is resolved to this .2. So what that really means is if you wanted to kind of screw somebody, you could. So for instance, right, I know links.com right now, if you were to open this up, by default it goes to links.com, and you see, okay, we're cool, right? But if I wanted to keep at Etsy hosts and change links.com to something like our router, which I know it doesn't actually host links.com, I try to refresh this, you'll see, oh, something went wrong. Response was nil, and that's because what actually happened there is instead of going to the links.com IP address, because during the resolution process, it tries to consult the local database, and then it tries to consult the actual authoritative domain server, which is the quad ace, which we'll see in a second with resolve.conf. It went to our router, and our router definitely isn't hosting anything port 80. So then I got confused and I was like, oh, what? I didn't get anything. And it came back with this response. So a little something to kind of keep in mind if you have like networking issues, right? And you just delete it and then bada bing, bada boom, you're back to everything working properly. Now what's really bad is resolve.conf. I can't spell it A. Let's see, resolve.conf. See, name server is quad 8s, right? So anytime you do anything to resolve any kind of domain name, you'll definitely be going to the quad 8s. And I can show you this with netlisten. Netlisten is our packet capture utility. See, now we're doing netlisten. I'm going to do this again, and you'll see a couple things happen here, right? So first, a UDP packet was sent to our quad 8s, and then you see destination IP, right? Because we resolved the links.com to this 4.109 address. And then we actually sent our TCP packet to the 4.109 address on port 80 and then got this data back. Now, let's go ahead and screw with this a little bit more. I'm going to vpad, let's see, resolve.conf. And we're once again going to change name server to 1.2 us, actually. And then we're going to try this again. And you see, failed to connect to the .2 for DS resolution, port 53 isn't open. And you see what happened there. This is our previous packet, this is our new one right here. UDP was sent to ourselves at port 53. And we got connection reset because this is captured twice since this got sent to us. So this is important to know in case somebody were to screw with your stuff. You'd be like, oh, well, no, dude, nothing's resolving, dude. What's going on here? You see there's certain files you check, right? So the first thing you should check is etc host. Next one you should check is etc-resolve.conf. See if these are good to go for defaults. And there's nothing here. Just put name server to 8.8.8.8 and you should be fine. And as long as there's no router rules, that should be the only changes you really need. All right, so that's all I kind of say. These are very important files you should check. Now let's go over config.txt. Now config.txt, really simple file. All it does is it runs these binaries as listed when it boots. Easy enough. Okay. Now let's go over to logging. So your machine does logging by default, and so does SSH, right? So if you remember earlier, let's go here. Let's use this. If you go to var log, you got two log files here. You got messages, which is written to whenever the machine boots up. So you see it has some like basic stuff here. I kind of was just trying to fill this out. See, you get a private IP assigned, public IP address assigned. See, it read config.txt, and then it started this process. Bin SSHD, right? And then it did all this stuff, gives you machine ID. But what's really important here is these processes that were started, right? This is all the SSHing that we did earlier, and this will be reflected in the auth.log. Now, the difference between these two files is this one is written to by the machine. This one is written to by the SSH service. Now, what is the SSH service? It is simply just a daemon that's running on this machine. So if we do PS, you see SHD is running. Do a netstat, you see that it is listening. Port 22. This is all to be expected whenever you're on your machine. And you see, this is all of our sessions, right? Like whenever we failed to authenticate with root, too many password attempts, we got kicked out. Connection from these our IP address because we didn't connect from anywhere else. You got successful log on, all of this stuff, right? This is just basic logging. So with that being said, this should cover all of the basics with the terminal. I showed you redirection. I showed you some basic commands. I highly encourage you to go into the web browser here, go to the game wiki, go to the commands reference, and just look through a couple of these. The biggest one that we're going to need is CB, configure binary. Configure binary even has an example here, really useful by the way. It tells you what it does, tells you how to use it, all that good stuff. And I highly recommend that you go through here, just start looking. These all have, excuse me, these all have things like descriptions and how to use them, what they do. And then at the top, you'll always find the how to use it, right? Like the paths, dir, make dir, all stuff like that, right? I guess one more thing I'll leave you guys with is options, right? Remember the options I said earlier? Almost every command has a TAC H option, which will show you the help right? So like cat tech end, var log messages to show line numbered output. If you want to do that for some reason, you can do that, right? SSH, of course, they have the tech P, tech capital P, all that good stuff, right? So with that being said, that is the second tutorial. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments. Thank you very much.